All right, well, today we are back to work on upgrading and outfitting my 30 by 50 home workshop here, and we are finishing up the biggest project we have ever done by far, with the exception of tearing the old shop down and building this one, and that is a pair of lofts in the back here. Now, when our hands were kind of forced into tearing the old building down and building this one, we decided we'd take advantage of that situation and go as tall as we could, which ended up being 16-foot walls, so that we could get more vertical storage in general, since we couldn't really go larger on the footprint, but specifically so we could put the 3-car stacker lift in and build a pair of lofts. Now, we could have built these with a lower ceiling height if we were just gonna cram stuff up there for storage, but we're not just gonna be using these for storage. We're gonna be setting up and outfitting a really cool hangout area up there, with a sim rig and TV and mini fridge and couch, a whole little mini living room up there that overlooks the entire shop. It's always been a dream of mine to have my own shop in general, and then when the concept of being able to go up there after working on a project and getting it done and just overlook the shop and the cars, it would literally be the coolest thing ever. So that is the part probably I'm most excited about. But the more important part is finally having some storage, because we have been at capacity here for a while. So that being said, it's a long time coming, but we're in the thick of it. So we've got the first frame done, the main frame itself. We've still got to build the frame for this side and then finish them both up with the accessories, handrails, flooring, all of that. And then we can get into outfitting them and customizing them and doing all that stuff. But first things first, one thing at a time, we got to get both structures complete. So we're going to start with the stairs. I got these loft kits from Mezzanine's online, and I was originally just going to get the lofts from them and build my own handrails, but instead of trying to scab something together, I decided to just go with their kit because it's meant to work at all the different heights of the mezzanine and bolt right on in theory. Sway do have a saying about bolt on stuff, at least when it comes to cars, it's almost never actually bolt on, but so far so good with this. So hopefully in theory, this should be quick and easy, or hopefully should be quick and easy, because we need it to be, because we got a lot of work to do if we want to get both of these structures completely assembled by the end of this, which is the goal. So we're not going to get there if I keep jibber jabbering, so let's get to work. With any kit of any type, I'm always paranoid that there's going to be missing pieces. We're not going to have everything we need. So one thing we like to do is basically set everything out and make sure, kind of take inventory of everything first, and then start putting it together. So fortunately, it looks like we've got everything. So we started with the top step because everything kind of centers around that top step. We have to give room to the lift and everything for the stairs. So once that's sorted, all we had to do was adjust and set our center posts, and then we can start hanging the steps. And it's a pretty straightforward, smooth process. Every other set of holes is effectively where our steps need to go, and you just gotta bolt them in and work our way around the spiral staircase. All right, well, this is going together pretty dang quick, honestly. And before we go too far, we need to probably go ahead and anchor it, because we're not gonna be able to get to the anchor spots once we get the last few steps on. It's just I'm always so paranoid about anchoring things until they're assembled, because, in case you gotta move it some. But that's level, this level, we should be good. One thing I'm excited about, though, when I bought my first concrete drill to do the lifts, the 2-post lifts, when I first bought this house, no one had in stock a Milwaukee cordless one. So I finally got one. I've been saving it just for this project. Let me see. Yeah, I haven't used it yet. Yeah, so I'm so excited. No, I transferred the bits over.
And here I thought we were gonna go get the extension cord.
Nope, no extension cords for us. To really hammering anything, but especially concrete anchors, purposeful wax, a lot better than a lot of wax. Work your way around, Josue. You don't want to torque it one way or the other. Work your way around. Are we gonna party or what? With our posts all anchored and leveled out, all we had to do was go ahead and finish installing our steps. this was absolutely a breeze. I mean, there's really only one way they can go on. It's pretty easy to line them up, and overall, they went on nice. The last step, we have to add these braces that basically support it to the ground, which ours used the shortest ones. However, them being the shortest ones meant that it was actually really pretty tricky to get in there and get to the nuts. My arms are a little too large for that, but we managed to get it done, get those tightened up. And then while we had the concrete drill out and I was just excited to, put my new tool to work, I wanted to go ahead and anchor the main support post. That way everything is square and level and stout and secured and not going anywhere. You gotta say, that went up really, really quickly. Very happy with that. It is stout and solid, ain't going nowhere. But check it out, it's starting to look so much more complete now that it's got a staircase. I'm pretty hyped on the spot. I've low-key always wanted a spiral staircase in my life, just in general.
As soon as you said the loft in, you were like, spiral staircase.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Because otherwise, if we had a regular staircase, they do make a steep one. I didn't realize. I kept it inside the frame, but the spiral's way cooler. And, in my opinion, more functional for what we're trying to do. Got a spiral staircase! Oh, it's the little things. It gets me so hyped. I can't wait to see it all done and dusted. So anyway, we're going to start putting the handrail poles on, tightening each step, and carry on my wayward son. There will be stairs when you are done.
Voila.
Lay your weary Josue to rest. Don't you cry no more.
No more crying.
Dun, 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 dun.
Now we get the medium bolts.
Medium bolts. So obviously, I can't deny that I wanted to do the spiral staircase because I think they're cool. I've thought spiral staircases were cool ever since I was a little kid. There's just something about them that it seems like it shouldn't work, but it does. So that was definitely part of it. But the other reason is because normal staircases just take up a ton of space. And, the whole idea here is to gain floor space and gain storage. And I didn't want to take up a ton of that space and make this awkward, weird spot in the shop where you can't really fit anything and you can't put anything around it to have a staircase. Now, the downside, obviously, to doing the spiral staircase is we're not going to be able to carry as large of items up it. But that doesn't really matter. We've kind of planned that out by, the large stuff's going to go up with R2. And the idea is that this loft will hold smaller stuff that you would be taking up and down and you would need access to via a staircase. And then the other loft is where we're going to put that large stuff where we're going to use R2 to take things up and down. So kind of balancing that in between. And for our use case, I think the spiral staircase is the best option. And at least for me personally, it's by far the coolest one. All right, well, our spiral staircase is pretty well wrapped up. I got a few finishing touches to do. We're gonna switch gears and I'm gonna get ready to start clearing out this area so that when Josue gets here, we can start getting this frame built. So I should probably quit jibber jabbering and definitely get to work. So I'm gonna do that. Let's get to it. So once I had most of the area cleaned out, it was time to unpack the loft. And fortunately, this is the the benefit of doing things in twos is you always learn all the little nuances with the first one, what pieces go where and what you need first and what you need second. It makes it a lot easier to lay everything out and organize everything. Now, this frame we are building to a different dimension. We're going to be building the top quite a bit longer than the other one because we don't have an AC in the way, and we're actually offsetting the post. There's some changes, but the general process is roughly the same. So pretty straightforward for us to get these two long beams bolted together, and then it's a matter of putting the brackets on for the cross beams. We're basically just trying to get everything done on the ground that we can, so there's less stuff we've got to do, and these things are not only A, up in the air, but B, pushed up against the wall where it's hard for us to get the bolts in. So Josue was flying on the brackets somehow, and I was lagging behind a little bit, but once we got that done, I started measuring and trying to determine exactly where we were going to put the beam, because we need to know that now, and then it's time to clear out the last few things. I kind of forgot about this stuff. I was hoping that we could assemble the loft with this stuff here, but there's a lot of things still in the way. The TV, too high, it's in the way. The router, in the way. It's going to be right up against the post, so we've got to move that. And then this airline, this conduit, all of this is in the way. We mocked up a post up here to see if maybe we could make it work, but it's not going to work, which means we're going to have to come back in later and redo this stuff. But for now, we're just going to take it apart so that we can get this frame built. We can worry about the the trivial things later. So I did have to take apart this whole outlet to get to this bulkhead screw to then be able to pull the wiring out of the conduit and wrap it up, because we're going to have to use something different than that conduit later on and get it zip tied, and then I can put the outlet back together so, you know, we don't shock ourselves. And then it's time to start assembling our side pieces. Now, this is kind of the trickiest and, you know, kind of nerve-wracking part. It's not bad, but we've basically got to assemble this whole side and then lift it up in one shot, which is always just, you know, one of those things. The bottom beams are sliding. It always feels like it wants to do a 180 and flip off the forks. So this is just one of those parts that's always a little bit stressful, but this will be our third time doing it now. So, I mean, we're basically professional loft installers at this point, but it makes it pretty easy. Basically, what we do, too, is we lift it up at its smallest height setting, and then we adjust it to the height we want it at. That way, A, we have a little more room. It would be really tight or nearly impossible to lift it up at the height that we want it at. And B, you know, it's just easier to manage. You know, lower center of gravity, things aren't swinging around as much. So that way it works out great. It definitely is one of the nice things about doing this in the kit form, where it is adjustable, because it makes it a little bit easier to set it up. So with the first one up and zip tied, we've just got to lift the second one into place, and we've got kind of one of the hardest parts done, or at least the hardest part we've encountered yet. There may be more surprises for us in the future.
And then this right here.
And once this is back, yeah, I mean, this is perfect. So yeah, I think that's better, because if this was here, then it's kind of like...
That's an in-between.
Right. Good news.
Good teacher.
I want to report to my supervisor that you're cheating. You only gave me 2 nuts. Just so you can win. I would have won. I want that.
I did no such thing.
I want that to be noted in the record that I would have easily won that one, that round. You had not cheated by giving me the incorrect quantity Of nuts. What do you need?
I gotta slow you down a little bit.
You cheated on the bracket hanging competition.
I gotta slow you down.
I was not understanding. Like, how did he finish all this so fast? By cheating! Does your mother know you're a cheater?
Of course.
So me and Josue always have a bit of an unspoken competition when we're doing stuff like this, because we each have the same amount of hardware that we need to install, the same amount of things we need to do per side. It's always a little bit of a game to see who can finish first. And on the bracket hanging competition, Josue was way ahead, and it's because he didn't switch out the bolts on the one that we were supposed to switch the bolts out on. So caught him red-handed. But overall, throwing these beams in is pretty easy. However, we are encountering a bit of a problem. The beams, as we're moving forward, we're having to really stretch the frame out to get them wide enough. Now, the width that we have set up that we're using is like the max width we can do. I mean, it's really tight. So I noticed the brackets for the conduit were in the way. The post was getting into the spray foam that was sticking out a little bit. So we trimmed that, clearance that. It seemed to help a little bit, but the problem was still there. And it was getting progressively worse the further forward we went, to the point where I was moving the whole wall trying to get these holes to line up. Hold on a second, dude. Look at this. The front, this one, it has a huge gap because we've pushed it so far. After doing some investigative work and measuring the other one and measuring some of the beams, we realized that because the front beam is flipped, because it needs to face outside, there's an extra set of holes that basically made it 2 inches shorter, and we didn't even notice when we put it up. So the front of the frame was 2 inches shorter than the back of the frame, and we were fighting that. I mean, we had basically, it had slid all the way out to the end of its slots, and it couldn't go any further. Once we fixed that problem, the beams went in like they should. Easy peasy. Check it out. Loft number 1 or 2, loft number 2 to loft number 1. Oh, I'm so happy with all of it. I'm happy with the kit, the fact that we went with the kit. It is really solid. Everything went together as it should. We didn't have to finagle, grind, cut, nothing. Not a single thing.
Nuts and bolts.
Literally nuts and bolts. So that's really impressive. I'm happy with the length we settled on this. This was a tough debate. Lots of measuring, but we got it pretty much spot on. I mean, it ends just before the conduit, the frame itself. This is right where we were hoping it would be, so you can still get in here and do what you got to do there and there, or you can come around the backside and do it over here, which is important because we could have gone back one more set of holes. But then it would be, this is where I normally walk through to go do that door when we have everything in here how we had it set up, which we may change it, but regardless, this would be right in the middle. You couldn't get through here and you couldn't get through here. So this was the right call. Plus, it would have been staggered with this one. This one couldn't go back another set of holes. That would have been, it would have driven my OCD nuts if this one was here and that one was further back. So I kind of like the little overhang. It's kind of neat. Oh man, this one looks good. I love how it comes all the way out. And then that one's perfect, I think, at the length that it is, because now, the spiral staircase is, I'm so happy. It's the first time really taking a step back and looking at it. And this is like the, whew. Oh man, the shop stuff just hits different. I dreamed for so long of having just my own 2-car garage. That's all I wanted, just a 2-car garage of my own that I could set up and work on stuff myself and not have to deal with other people's stuff cluttering it up and getting in the way. And here we are with the shop, air conditioned. It's 71 in here, and we've now got a pair of giant mezzanines. It just completed it, dude. Finally seeing the 3-car stacker with the 2. What a feeling. Whew. Right?
Fitment is on point. It's just right.
Yeah, like you said, dude, it fits in there perfect. Like they're both squished between the wall, the lift, loft wall. It's all. I bet the building is way more stout now.
I ain't going nowhere.
That ain't going nowhere. You gotta say it. That ain't going nowhere. All right, jibber jabbering. We are done for the evening. How do you feel?
I feel good. I'm happy with it.
Dude, I'm stoked on it. Like, I really like the little cantilever, you know, post setback on this one and how it comes all the way up, but the posts aren't in the way. Like, I didn't even know we could do that. That was the game changer for me. Because imagine if we had to end it there. That would suck.
It's going to ruin everything.
The fact that we're able to bring it out to here. Okay. So happy. So after ending the previous day on a bit of a high, getting that frame done and seeing the main structures complete, it was time to get back to work. Now, the first priority is really not a priority, but it's the TV. Since we had to take it down, I wanted to get it rehung because we had FD was on and we wanted to make sure we could watch it while we were working. So we decided on a location that ideally we can watch the TV from the loft, from the hangout area, or move it over and watch it from down below. You know, I don't use this TV all that much anyway, so I didn't want to get another one for the hangout area, and this was seemingly the optimal solution. So once we got that hung, we could get into the real work of laying down our flooring. So this is tongue and groove 3/4 inch plywood. Now, getting it up here was a little bit of a struggle. I had a plan, and the plan kind of went off the rails. The boards fell off the pallet, and it was a bit of a mess, but we eventually got them up there with no casualties, no cracked boards, so we're good to go. And now it's time to start bolting them in. So we basically got to drill holes, put bolts in, put nuts on the bottom side. So Josue's on the bottom doing the nuts, and I'm positioning the boards, drilling the holes through the beams, and putting the bolts in. Now, the tricky thing is that these boards slide around pretty easily on these beams, and I have to use the board as what I'm standing on and working from. So as I'm moving around, even though I may not realize it, the board's moving around a little bit underneath me. And as we got to the last board on this row, we realized that we were a little bit off. I mean, I'm talking maybe an inch, but with something like this, if you're off a little bit at the start, that's going to translate to a lot of it at the end. So we decided to just start over from the wall side, use clamps to hold the boards and make sure they didn't move as I was trying to drill them in, and try to get a much straighter starting point, because we have quite a few extra boards because of the size that we went with this frame. So we'd rather waste those couple boards. If we even waste them, we may be able to salvage them, but if we do have to, we'd rather do that than end up with something that's super crooked and all cattywampus by the time we get to the end. So we just cut our losses, started from scratch. It's one of those things where it probably would have been fine, but the reality is we can be a bit of perfectionists, and we want to make this as nice as we can. So starting over was a good call because we were able to use the clamps to hold everything square, and everything else follows those first two boards. So with those being square, it's a lot easier to keep everything else square and keep it from sliding around as we work our way across. So what you do here is basically you take the excess from the last board. So in this case, for this loft, this size, we use just under 2 boards to go the full length. So we have a little piece left over on the first cut. We put that at the front and then work our way down. And the idea is that you keep doing that and you keep carrying them on, and then you don't have any gaps that line up with each other. However, the problem is with how short we have to cut that last piece, we were going to end up with 2 of those gaps right next to each other, and those are basically going to be weak points. So what we had to do to combat that is just start from the back and work our way to the front. Now, this isn't ideal because we want the front joint to be as clean as possible and not a cut joint, but we got to do what we got to do to make sure that this thing is as strong as possible and we don't have 2 gaps lining up next to each other. It's pretty obvious why that would not be ideal. So we started from the back, started working our way to the front, and getting these cuts precise is really one of the trickiest parts of this, because it's the one part besides lining them up where we can make or break it. And unfortunately, I cut that one a little bit short, but, you know, we're just going to keep trucking. We could replace it, but it'll be fine. We're not going to notice. I'll forget all about it. Or at least that's what I'm telling myself, because I don't want to waste any more boards. But fortunately, the one long uncut board, we were able to just slide over. The reason we couldn't start over with that one was because then the holes wouldn't line up because it would need to be flipped, and definitely don't want random holes through my floor. So now that we have our joints all mapped out, we don't have to do any, not too much thinking. It's all pretty smooth sailing from here. We did have to cut these last boards down lengthwise, just about 7/8 of an inch. We were so close to not having to cut them lengthwise, but we did just a little bit, just to get a nice flush edge right with the end of the beam. Grade A work. Now. right, check it out. Take a walk with me up the spiral staircase. Also, look at the TV. That's just all the way up. I don't know long term on that. We'll have to see once we get this area set up here. But take a walk up the spiral staircase with me. Very satisfying. Always wanted one of these. And we finally have a floor. Oh, it's so cool to have the floor and be able to really walk around up here. It makes it feel a lot larger and finally get to see what we're working with. Very satisfying to see this thing with a floor on it. Now we need to decide what we want to do with the floor. Do we want to paint it? Do we want to epoxy it like to match the shop floor? Do we want to put something over it? Carpet maybe? Carpet would be pretty cool. I don't know. Definitely let me know in the comments below if we don't get to that in this episode. But floor is done. Oh, check this out. This is kind of where I'm envisioning the couch being. So if you were sitting down at couch height, boom, you got the car right in front of you. That was one of the ideas behind the 3-car stacker, is how cool it'd be to be up on the loft and have a car next to you. I just this is my first time really taking in what that feels like, and it's I gotta say, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. And we could put whatever car we wanted up here, you know. And then look at the view out over the shop, and this is sitting down on the couch height, you know. You can see, obviously it doesn't look that cool now because we just got a bunch of crates and R2 and a boat, but imagine 2 projects, you just finished one up, come up here to take a chill break or something. Oh, so cool, man. I can't get over it. Oh, it makes me so happy. Oh, this has been a long time coming. And we got our first usable loft structure complete. So we still got a lot to do on all fronts. So I'm gonna get into doing all that. I think I'm gonna go ahead and knock out the handrail for this. We basically got a handrail all the way down, and then we've got an end cap handrail to here, which will have another handrail here. All of that I think we can go ahead and install. I just don't want to put this handrail section on yet until we have everything loaded up here, because obviously if we put that there, we can't get anything up here. So I'd like to get this knocked out so that the staircase is officially done and dusted. And then we need to work on quite a few things. Lighting underneath, as you can see, it's pretty dungeony under here. So we got to decide what we want to do for lighting. We got to wire that stuff up. We need outlets up there. We still got to figure out our layout. Like, there's a lot of oddball things to do, but I think first things first, let's get this staircase wrapped up so we can see what it looks like fully finished up. Let's get to it. So for the main spiral handrail, because it does have to spiral, we have this basically big rope. There's a cable on the inside and then kind of like a nylon set of braided rope around it. And I wasn't sure how this was going to be to install or how it was going to pan out aesthetically and functionally. But as I'm working it through here, it's looking pretty solid. So once we had it all routed through, all we got to do is go back through, level the poles yet again, and then screw them into the rope. And I'm trying to kind of keep tension on the rope as I screw it in to make sure it doesn't have any slack in between. Otherwise, it kind of doesn't do its job as well as it needs to. And also, you know, just so it looks nice and uniform. So speaking of uniform, we've got to install these caps in the end post just to cover them off. It's amazing what a difference something like these little caps will make as far as the finished look of something. And with that, the stair handrail is done. It's time to tie that into the loft itself. Money, let's go. And now we just need to do this rail. Oh well, and cap this off. Last piece. Boom. All right, well, handrail's done. Stairs are officially complete. We got our caps and everything. So satisfying. That handrail went together easy. It looks good. I extended these out to the edge of the platform. Really, really happy with that. It just fully completes it, seeing it with the handrail. So we could toss up this handrail and go pretty quick. The handrail part's probably the easiest thing of all. But like I said, we need the space to be able to forklift stuff up here with R2. All the big items that are going to go up here, which means we still got to figure out our layout. That being said, we're pretty well wrapped up with this loft until we get the rest of our stuff in and decide on some layout things. But yeah, really, really happy with that. So happy to finally see a spiral staircase. It's a silly thing, but it is a bucket list thing. I've always thought spiral staircases are so cool. I've always wanted one. I've never actually lived in a two-story house, so it's not like there was ever any reason why I would have a spiral staircase, but now we do. Dream goal accomplished. Spiral staircase. Pretty dang cool and space saving. I mean, that was the main reason, but also, you know, it's cool. It's cool, I like it. So anyway, gotta make some decisions before we can move on with this one, aside from the lighting underneath. I do need to get that knocked out, but that kind of ties into the wiring of the outlets up there, which ties into the layout. We still gotta figure out the layout. So we're going to move on. It's not like we don't have a whole other loft to finish. So I'm going to go ahead and start laying down these floors. It should be a little bit easier. I don't hesitate to say that, but we should be able to do what I was kind of originally planning. Take the wood up sideways so we don't have to take it off R2 and we can just leave the wood on R2 so we're not moving it around. It's not in the way. Whew. All right. Look at this. Got empty crate. Mostly empty crate. And all that's left in this one is the wood that's about to go up. So we are cruising right through it. You know the deal. Jibber jabber, back to work. So starting on this loft, it is the power of twos. We have done this before. We got a general idea. So I went ahead and laid out some wood to be the walking boards. So I had something to stand on while we were up there. And then we started working on laying down this first row. Now, as I've said before, the first row is by far the most critical. So we've got to spend the most time here. The more time we spend getting this first row to be perfectly lined up, the less time, in theory, we should have to spend trying to keep it lined up and, you know, fudge it here and there to get it to be consistent at the end, you know. So this is the critical part. Now, the one difference between this loft and the other one is that since it's longer, instead of using a little less than 2 boards each row, we're using a little more than 2 boards each row. And I mapped it out, and from what I can tell, I think that's going to end up, you know, making our joint situation a little better. We shouldn't have the same problem of having to go front to back and then back to front and then front to back again to keep the joints from falling in between the same beams. That's my hope, at least, because that was definitely one of the trickier, more time-consuming parts of doing the first one, was just trying to plot and plan and make sure you didn't, you know, kick yourself in the foot later on by doing one a certain way. So one of the more challenging parts of doing this is trying to get a nice, clean, straight cut on this while doing it while on top of the loft. Now, obviously, we could take the boards down, cut them down there, and bring them back up, but that would take more time, and we don't want to do that. So I'm trying my best to cut them up here in place to make this process smooth and quick, and then we can just drop them in, and if there's any changes that need to be made, I don't have to take the piece back down, climb back down the ladder, and recut it. However, that means I'm not getting the most precise cuts. However, you know, that's what the grinder's for. That's what the grinder and the flat disc were made for. Clean it up, not precise cuts. Done by people not making the most precise cuts. Like me, when I'm on top of this mezzanine trying to not cut through the boards that I'm standing on and cut the piece that I need to cut. But all that being said, the best news is the fact that all of these joints seem to be panning out exactly where we want them without us having to flip-flop back and forth between front to back to front, you know, pulling the old Uno reverse card. We're on the second to last row, and it looks like we should be able to finish this out without having to use too much brain power. success. That ain't going anywhere. Believe you me. What does that even mean? Who am I believing, you or me? Practical use of the loft.
Inception. They are one again.
Package that it came in is now storing. Crazy.
Impressive.
All right, well, loft number 2 is officially complete with the exception of anchoring the posts, which I meant to do before we did the floor, but I completely forgot. But other than that, loft number 2 is complete. I guess I should take you guys up there. Let's take a tour. Hold on, let's take a gander real quick. Obviously, missing handrail there, missing a little bit of handrail there, but we're gonna leave this one mostly open for loading up pallets of tires and heavy things with R2. That was the idea of having this one with no staircase, maximizing the floor space, not taking up a ton of space, and then putting the heavy stuff up there. So a little bit of handrail, like maybe a little, and then this one, all handrail. So it'll be real nice and completed looking. But let's take a tour. Sawdust lung. Just can't stop looking at it. All right, up the spiral staircase. I got some grip tape ordered for this because these are a little slippery with the sawdust on them. Bare powder coated metal. Then we come up to loft number 1. Got a nice view.
Hello up there.
Imagine just envision it with cars there, obviously, and the shop cleaned up because it will now be able to be cleaned up. Now, my original plan was to cross over using the lift, which is what we're going to do to show you this. But this beam here that connects the 2 posts together kind of makes it a little annoying. You got to either duck under or go over it. You either got to go down to that level or up to this level, across and over. However, the other idea we have is to build a little bridge back here, because this has to be forward because of the roll-up door anyway. Build a little bridge over the roll-up door, and then you could just walk right through here and over to the other loft, which would be perfecto. There's plenty of room to walk through there, and we're not going to be going on that one too often. Again, that's more long-term storage, and I can always ride R2 up. That was the other plan. So right now, we got to, do a little duck under, walk across the front, which this car could be way further back, but we put the tires up there to get them out of our way when we're building this. And then you duck back under here, and then you're on loft number 2. And see, this one feels a lot larger because it is a good bit larger. It's about 3 feet longer, I think, maybe a little less, like 2.5 feet. But that makes a big difference. So obviously this isn't going to be up here long term, but the idea would be shelves up here, big shelf up here, and then big things like, we can load all our tires on a pallet and just R2 them up here, get them out of the way. Oh, and then this is the view from here. Nice solid view. So yeah, and then to get back down, you just gotta do the same thing. And then down you go. And that's that. That is the pair of lofts. It just really completes the shop. It felt, felt kind of like something was missing before because we had all the height and we weren't using it. So I'm really, it just feels so good to see it. So obviously we still got to outfit them. We got to outfit up there. We need to add AC up there one way or another, set it up, outlets. We got to do lights underneath both of them. We still got a few things to do. That's probably going to be the most fun part, is outfitting them and setting them up. But The structures are complete. The crates, besides that one, are taken out to the curb. We did it.
We did it. You did it.
We
did a great job.
Oh, thanks. You too. It went pretty quick, honestly. You know, the first one took us a bit to get the main frame up, but the next one we flew through it. I mean, we got it done in a day, the main frame, from nothing, and then the rest of it, you know, that floor took us a little bit. This one way faster. You know, everything's faster the second time. But yeah. Anyway, I'm jibber jabbering. This is a long one, I am sure, but let me know what you guys think of the loft. I can't wait to build that bridge too. I can't wait for the rest of the stuff we got to do. We still got to unload the trailer full of tools and equipment and stuff and sort all that out. So we're just gonna keep hustling on this and we'll get it knocked out in no time. But for now, we are out of time, so I'm gonna end it here. But I do want to say thank you guys for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for everything you do that makes building out my dream shop possible. And yeah, can't wait to see you next time.
Thanks for watching.
You guys say goodbye. You guys say goodbye. Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Terrible. I'm a terrible
Video ender.
Yes. And not even guided.